Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the further pressure heaped on Boris Johnson yesterday as he faced the largest rebellion in his time as Prime Minister, and then another Christmas party photo emerged. Didn't include Boris Johnson, but still it was at his party headquarters, so there's still going to be some explaining to do. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So a scan through the front pages of the mainstream newspapers today makes grim reading for the Prime Minister. The Daily Express predictably bolstered him, but it sort of stood alone really. The rest seemed to be out for blood. Most of the papers focused on the blow to Boris Johnson's authority that the vote for the COVID pass delivered yesterday, with the Mirror, which has been breaking stories of rules-breaking Christmas parties at Downing Street last December, came up with another couple of gems. But I'm going to tackle the votes in Parliament yesterday first, because although much of the media are focusing on the damage that this does to Boris Johnson's authority, as are opposition parties, of course, in party politics, I'm actually going to put it out there that I'm not minded to attack any Prime Minister who goes against a big chunk of their own party in order to do the right thing. At the end of the day, most of us would say, well, a Prime Minister should put country before party. They often don't. Again, inevitable consequence of party politics, but, you know, we should laud it when they do. Now, I have queried the motivation in the last week for these measures, but at the end of the day, we know that what we had in place wasn't good enough for the Delta variant, much less the more transmissible Omicron variant. Our 7-day moving average number of new cases per day has increased by just over 12% in a week. It's expected to be even more next week. And the government's own scientific advisors have said that even these new measures are not going to be enough. So what would I want to happen? For Boris Johnson to fall in line with the swivel-eyed loons that he has empowered in his party and drop these latest measures? No. I mean, one of them yesterday, Sir Desmond Swayne, who is the looniest of the loons, was trying to claim that more people die in road traffic accidents than from COVID. And it was like, well, there's a couple of things there. First of all, when it comes to road traffic accidents, we do put measures in place to try and reduce the number of casualties, don't we? We put effort in. But the second thing is, that's hogwash. There have been more people die from COVID just in the last, year and a half than in my entire lifetime from road traffic accidents. I'm 45. So no, nonsense. And that's another thing that gets me, and the Prime Minister goes to Parliament and he tells lies, and what happens now? Now we've got MPs standing up in Parliament telling lies. And what's going to happen? Is he going to be made to come to the House and correct his error and say, sorry, I seem to have been talking out of my arse. Probably best to disregard anything I say in future? No. But yeah, do I want Boris Johnson to fall in line with the party that has views like that and drop the measures? No. So I'm certainly not going to poke at the blow to his authority that this rebellion has exposed. Frankly, the worst thing that can happen now is for Boris Johnson to back down and not further tighten the measures when it becomes absolutely essential. It's bad enough that he's likely to introduce these measures too late. I did think that he was planning to tighten them over Christmas, where Parliament's in recess after tomorrow. When it couldn't be put towards a vote, like, oh, sorry, yeah, we would put it to a vote of Parliament. Of course we would, but I'm sorry, Parliament's not sitting, so we just had to do it ourselves. However, he was forced to promise to recall Parliament if such a move was needed. Although I would say if Tory MPs are that bothered, why are they even going on recess at all? Why don't they just, for once, during this emergency, stay at work instead of going off to enjoy ill-advised, if not downright unlawful festivities? But speaking of which, my main interest was actually the Mirror's front page and the main story. Now, there are two stories in the Mirror, both of which Boris Johnson needs to answer for. The first is that the Mirror have an email from a senior official at number 10 Downing Street, which shows that Christmas quiz, the story which was broken at the weekend, was organised, and deliberately so, knowing that rules were being broken. Boris Johnson tried to excuse the photo that was published at the weekend of him hosting the quiz by saying that it was a remote quiz. I mean, I've already discussed how the image still shows him breaking the rules, as he wasn't socially distanced from those other people from not in his household, and he wasn't carrying out essential work. But the idea was supposed to be that the workers were all engaging with the quiz remotely from home. or maybe one or two at their office desk, but you know, that's still fine. But the email explains how it was being organised to be done in person at the office. According to the Mirror, the email proves that the organisers knew that people would be taking part in the quiz from Downing Street officers. It also advised revellers, because that's what they were, because there was booze involved and partying up until past midnight, also advised the revellers to leave by the back when they went, not go out the front. Not something you need to advise if they're not doing anything wrong. Some more questions will be asked, but perhaps the biggest will be for the photo on their front page today. Now, I was wondering, as you will know, that if there'd be another photo or video emerging that directly links Boris Johnson. Granted, this photo is not the partially clothed and drunk Prime Minister leading a conga through Downing Street that I had not exactly anticipated, but sort of dreamed about. But what it does show is a clearly organised party, which definitely would be against the law, at the Conservative Party headquarters. The most prominent politician shown in the photo is Sean Bailey. He was the Tories' London mayoral candidate, but until he resigned yesterday after this expose, he was also on the London Assembly and the chair of the London Assembly's Police and Crime Committee. Last year, like a lot of senior Conservative politicians, he was urging people to follow the guidance and putting particular emphasis on the rule of law. At the same time, he was planning a quite illegal and wholly reckless party. Because there's still some debate about whether the parties at Downing Street were illegal or not, or they just break the rules. You know, a suggestion that a piece of legislation, which I have looked at, but I'm not a legal expert, potentially bars Crown properties from certain aspects of health and safety legislation. That might cover it. It might do. I don't know. Not that this would be a loophole for Boris Johnson, because he doesn't fear legal consequences. Like the police have even seen, the police won't investigate him. They say, oh, there's no evidence. It's like, you're the police, you're supposed to find the evidence. When you've got the evidence, then you give it to the prosecutors. They deal with that. You're supposed to find the evidence. Oh, there's no evidence, sorry. Then they show photos. Oh, photos, yeah. Yeah, we're still not going to investigate. He knows the police aren't going to investigate until absolutely forced to, and that may never happen. What he does fear is the public reaction. They're not going to be impressed if it turns out to be legal. In fact, they may be more annoyed if it turns out to be legal that Downing Street was a special case, because that would literally be one rule for them, another for the rest of us. But no doubt in this bash of Bailey's Conservative Party HQ is not a government building. It's their own private pad. It's got nothing to do with the government, certainly not a Crown property, private building. This image shows clear law breaking. It was planned because you can see it was catered. You don't get food warmers and posh platters like that from Tesco, express or otherwise. And what got me was the sheer arrogance of the photo. Like, this isn't someone taking a candid snap at the party, like everyone socialising, clearly breaking the law, but essentially it's just someone taking a photo on their phone. They're all posing. Some bellend is even lying on the floor to help everyone get in. It's the sort of photo that required a bit of organisation and for everyone to put some effort in so they could all get in. There's a large number of them. They are recording for prosperity, deliberately having their photo taken of themselves in a criminal act. Who on earth does that other than people who just fundamentally do not consider themselves to be bound by the law? Apparently, Cabinet Minister Grant Shapps said that the party was absolutely unacceptable, of course, but not authorised by Tory bosses. You what, mate? It was catered. This wasn't an intern popping down the shops for some crisps and a few bottles of plonk and sneaking it through the front door or even the back door and going into his office and not letting anyone else in the building know. It was professionally catered. A van will have turned up. How on earth did they get all that sorted and into his office area without anyone noticing? I couldn't just walk up to Conservative Party HQ and waltz through the front door with a load of platters of food. Or indeed anything. Like someone else said, who here could actually hold a party at their place of work and their employer not know about it? And it would be difficult enough to believe that nobody knew about it if this was a story in isolation, if none of the other stories had emerged. But we know that Boris Johnson, the leader of the Conservative Party, was allowing and even hosting rules-breaking, at least, Christmas parties at Downing Street last year. Boris Johnson has been trying to change history with his remarks. He went from a couple of weeks ago, there were no parties, and all the rules were followed. Last week it was, I am assured that there were no parties and all the rules were followed. This week it is, I broke no rules. People were quick to seize upon the latest statement. He knows that it is getting undeniable now, and he's preparing to throw his officials under the bus in order to protect the pretense that he knew nothing about these activities. Like, seriously, when we know that there were parties in Downing Street, only a mug could believe that Boris Johnson wouldn't be aware of multiple loud parties going past midnight in the same terraced building. And then we find out that there was at least one party at his party headquarters. Who really believes that others didn't know it was going on? Frankly, I don't even believe that we've heard the last of these parties. You know, seriously, if no new news emerges of other parties, and it may take place over weeks or months, among senior Conservatives and their staff, I'm going to guess it's only because they chose rather more discreet guests. You know, we had the head of government in the middle of an emergency hosting a Christmas quiz that was very much against his own rules. So instead of working hard on the biggest crisis this country has faced in over 70 years, he was making the situation worse by encouraging people to huddle up to confer on some pointless trivia questions. The man who tried to run London's devolved administration, Sean Bailey, and was running oversight over the police, broke the law and has been forced to resign. I'm not anticipating a criminal investigation, even though that should really be underway right now, for everyone identified in that photo, including a major Tory donor, apparently. So at this time, you know, at the time the video is coming out, should be Prime Minister's questions. Now, I've not heard that Boris Johnson is pulling out of it. I'm going to guess, as I mused on Monday, that maybe now it would be worse for him not to attend. Like, especially after the rebellion last night and his failure to attend Parliament on Monday to answer questions. He's already been running scared this week. You know, so it's obviously better for him, I think, to attend and get beaten up by Starmer, Blackford and anyone else waiting in line, which will include several from his own backbenchers, than to not and just have them seethe furiously over Christmas. Because remember, those MPs are going home now to their constituencies. Their constituents are going to have things to say to them. So I shall be watching that PMQs with some interest. Then there's the small matter of the by-election tomorrow. I do, unfortunately, at the moment have a little sneaking suspicion that the Tories will just about pinch it, but it seems really tight. Still, as I've already said earlier this week, shouldn't really make any difference. Like, win by a small margin, lose by a small margin. This was one of their safest seats, so it would still represent a catastrophic loss of support, even if they win the seat. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.